Welcome to Maestro. My name is Bobby and I'm going to give you a brief overview of how Maestro works and show you some of the cool ways you can automate your tasks. We'll cover creating a form, different views and settings, how to automate your team and tasks, as well as backlog, group, and bulk edits. Let's start. Create a form. First, go to Mappings under the Automation menu on the left-hand side of your screen. In Mappings, you can organize and configure all the fields contained in your form. Let's start by creating a custom field by clicking on New Field. Add a name and select the type of field you wish to create. There are many options to choose from. In this case, we are selecting a text type field. Now determine the format of your field and fill in any required details. And to create a basic text field, it's that easy. From the Mappings page, you can organize and manage all the fields on your form. The order of your fields will determine where it appears. Let's create 2 new fields and start to give our form a little structure. You can see editing these is easy, and your form is infinitely customizable. Now that we have our fields complete, we can visualize our form and add some information to it. We'll do this by creating an activity. Navigate to the backlog page from the menu on the left-hand side and select New Activity. You can see the order we set up in the mapping screen is the order in which these fields are displayed. This will allow you to give background information to your team for each activity that goes through your process. When you're done, click Add and your first activity was created. When you select an activity, you can see this form again and edit any of its values. Anytime a change is made, it is automatically documented on the right-hand side of the form. Collaborate with your team. Now that everything's set up, you can collaborate with your team by sharing the activities. There are many ways to do this, but you might want to start by enabling notifications to track the activity and get notified of any updates. Now click the Share button on the top right-hand corner and select the teammates you want to be involved. This will automatically notify everyone involved with the project. You can also share this activity by mentioning someone in the comment section. By using the @ symbol, you can select any of your team members and they will get an email notification. You can couple this with a message so that they understand the action that they need to take on this activity. This makes sharing activities and sending updates easy. Process orchestration. Navigate to the Process Orchestration screen from the left-hand side of your menu. From this screen, you can build out your workflow, define the paths, manage your work, and add automations. Every activity starts with 2 statuses by default, open and closed. You can add a new status by selecting the option from your top menu bar. On the top right-hand side of the page, you can find the tools to navigate around the canvas and zoom in and zoom out to get a better perspective of your process. With no tools selected, you can easily move your statuses around. Now, let's add a new status. From here, you can add a name or select a display color for this status. Now define the path of your workflow by dragging the little box connecting any side of your status to the next status in the process. This will draw an arrow indicating the next steps in your workflow. And we're done. It's that simple. You've created your first workflow. Let's take a look at how process orchestration works. From this screen, you can select any status and see the activities contained. In this case, we have 3 activities in the open status and no activities in either the in progress or closed status. From the panel on the right-hand side of the screen, you can get a glimpse of how many activities are in a particular status. This list is sorted and divided by its priority. In this case, we have 3 medium priority activities. Click the bell icon to be notified anytime a change happens to any activity within this particular status. Each activity can be easily moved between statuses by dragging and dropping. Simply find the activity on the panel on the right-hand side and drag it into the appropriate status. And now you can see each of these statuses have only 1 activity. Automations. You can add automations to reduce the amount of repetitive work so you can concentrate on only what matters most. Select a status and navigate to the Automations tab on the panel located on the right-hand side of your screen. From here, select the type of automation that you wish to add. Today we're going to be adding Smart Group. Smart Group will allow you to group or regroup activities based on a value you define. In this case, we want to group activities based on the agency ID. Before we start, let's take a quick look at some of the other automations you have available. Smart Assign. Smart Assign will allow you to assign activities automatically based on the daily usage of Maestro. Use this tool to automatically assign tasks to yourself or the appropriate team member. Smart Prioritize. Smart Prioritize will allow you to prioritize activities based on the daily usage as well. Maestro will automatically sort your activities into low, medium, and high priority based on your past decisions. You'll notice there's now multiple automations here. You can mix and match for different effects. Execute Rules. And finally, Execute Rules will allow you to automate your workflow using custom parameters that you define. This means Maestro will take a specific action when any of the activities in that status meet certain conditions. For instance, if the agency ID is equal to 5, move the status to closed. Let's try the Execute Rules automation. Like before, select the status and add an automation. Right now you can see we don't have any rules defined, so we need to first create one using the Rules engine. You can find the Rules engine on the left-hand side of the screen under the Automations menu. This page functions as your collection of rules, so you can easily apply them to any status. Let's create a rule. First, we're going to add a name and then a brief description. Now we get to define a condition. For example, we can use the agency ID value input from our fields. Then select the type of condition and add a value. So this condition has been defined as agency ID is 5. If this condition is met, we're going to perform a particular action. In this case, the status would change to closed. Let's go ahead and set that action now. We'll find status from our drop-down list here and set the action to closed. So every time the agency ID is 5, the activity would be moved to closed. Be sure to hit the Save button on the right-hand side of your screen, and you'll see the new rule has populated at the top of your Rules engine. Now let's get back to the Process Orchestration screen and apply this rule. You can see that the new rule now appears and can be selected. This means the rules have been added. You may have noticed some other automation options. Hyperautomate involves the orchestrated use of multiple technologies and tools, including robotic process automation, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to enable automation for virtually any repetitive task executed by business users. This makes hyperautomation a powerful tool for digital transformation. You can use the hyperautomate feature based on one or multiple fields. In this case, we want to select by agency ID and by role type. Notify is another way to communicate with team members. You can set Maestro to automatically notify a team member if certain conditions are met. This keeps everybody on the same page as the project progresses. Simply add the Notify automation and select a team member. This will make sure they get notified anytime an activity enters that status. The Zapier tool brings a suite of automations that allow you to integrate almost any app with Maestro. For instance, if you get a sales email to your inbox, you can have Zapier create an activity, place it in open status, and notify your salesperson to take action, all without lifting a finger. Simply connect your Zapier account, build the Zap on their website, and add that automation to your status. After clicking Authorize, you'll be able to select which Zaps you want to add. Let's go ahead and add a Zap. Once you've created your tag on the Zapier website, click Select Zaps to automatically pull it from your options. And you can see I've created one that'll allow me to bring information from Google Sheets into Maestro. Simply select the zap you want to add and click Select. With this zap, every time a new row gets added to a document in Google Sheets, Maestro will create a new activity. Notice, you can also reposition this label by dragging it around. You can remove authorization from Zapier at any time by clicking on Disconnect. All zaps are configured through the Zapier website, but like in this case, we can see the details of the zap. Every time a new row gets added in a document in Google Sheets, Maestro will create a new activity. And finally, Show External Connections is a very useful label to notate anything connecting to a particular status. In this case, we are adding a label explaining that this information came from an old Excel spreadsheet. Kanban view and filters. Another way to use Maestro is through the Kanban view. Navigate to the Kanban view using the menu on the left side of the page. Here you can see the statuses represented in a traditional Kanban view. From here you can add new activities to any status, and this is done the same way as it is through the backlog or the process orchestration page. Just like with the other views, you can move an activity to the next status by simply dragging and dropping the item. At the top of this page, you can find smart filters. These smart filters are based on the fields defined in the form. There are several different conditions you can use to create any kind of filter you would need. You can also add, remove, and reorder that filter to suit your needs. Backlog grouping and bulk edits. From the backlog view, you can see the activities in a list form. You can sort them by dragging and dropping, and you can group activities together to organize your work. These groups make it easier to sort things, but you can also find a feature for a bulk edit. To create a group, simply drag an activity onto another activity that you'd like to group it with. As you can see, you can also manage the group using the options on the left-hand side of your list. After you have your group, select Bulk Modify. From here, you can make those changes to each activity in the group. With Bulk Edit, you can select what fields you want to modify and make that change to the entire group instead of going one by one. This is a huge time-saving tool. Users and permissions. With the users and permission settings, you can restrict the access to a particular set of fields for a group of people. Use the navigation menu on the left-hand side of your screen to go to the Users and Permissions page. On this page, you'll be able to see a full list of the users and admins on your account. From here, we can make changes. In our example here, you can see we have a user that was invited but never accessed this process. You can resend the invitation to that user or simply remove the user instead. You can also invite new users to this process by adding them and giving them a particular role. In this case, we have two roles, admin and user. Now let's send some invites. Simply fill out their information, click Add, and then click Send Invite. Now that that's complete, we can configure access to features and certain fields by using the toggles in the Roles section. On the left, you can limit the pages admins can access. This does not affect the owners. In the case of field access, you can toggle visibility, if it is editable, and if it is required or not. Down below this, you can see a list of users in this particular role. You'll be able to see their name, their contact information, their role, and their current status. In this case, I'm an admin, and if I restrict the access to reports, the UI updates automatically to hide the report options from the menu on the left-hand side of the page. But if we turn this back on, the reports option appears again. Remember, these changes apply to everyone but the owner. Now say we want to restrict access to a particular field for certain users. You can find specific user settings by highlighting the name and selecting from the options on the right-hand side of the list. In this case, we don't want this user to see the expected salary for a given candidate, so we turn off visibility for this field. We also don't want this user to edit candidate name and last name, so we turn editable off. Now for this user, this is how the report might look. Notice the candidate name and last name cannot be edited and the expected salary is not listed. Thanks for watching this overview of Maestro. My name is Bobby, and I'll see you next time.